appraiser, right? You still run appraisals, but you haven't in a while.
I do very few of them anymore. Right. I'm so busy, I really don't have the time to do them in a timely manner. It takes me too long because I'm so busy. It's not fair to the consumer for me personally to handle those because I'm just so busy. But we have a team of people that Tony and I have trained to do appraisals, and they've been doing them for years, and they are exceptional.
And how can contractors connect with you and your team?
They just call me.
Okay.
214-244-2639. I mean, again, your consumer, if the carrier refuses to do the right thing, the consumer's back into a corner. Mm-hmm. And they have those 6 options that we mentioned earlier.
Right.
And so in many cases, if what's in dispute is the amount of the loss, then appraisal is an appropriate option.
And appraisal can be found where in the policy?
In the conditions section of the policy.
Yeah, as a form of arbitration, really.
And it's, what's it called? Alternative dispute resolutions. It's ADR is what it is.
Right. And is the decision that's made through the appraisal process, is it binding?
Well, if the wording in the policy says that it's binding, then it is. There are some, like 99% of the times, that's what the policies say. Occasionally, you'll get a policy that doesn't say that. Or, I'll give you an example in Oklahoma. See, from state to state, it varies. In Oklahoma, it's binding on the party that demands appraisal, but not the other party. So if the consumer demands appraisal, as an example, in Oklahoma, in the state of Oklahoma, and however the award comes down, it's binding on the consumer, but not on the carrier. So it varies from state to state. So you have to know, like in Massachusetts, you have to be a resident of the state to be an appraiser or an umpire. In fact, in Massachusetts, the carrier names the consumer's appraiser, and the consumer names the carrier's appraiser.
Interesting.
Isn't that interesting?
That is very interesting.
So again, you have to know it. In Louisiana, you have to be certified to be an appraiser or umpire. You have to know these things. Most people don't. This is our profession.
Right.
I mean, I've been doing appraisals for 25 years. I've done almost 2,000 of them. My business partner, Tony, has been an adjuster for 50 years, and he's been doing appraisals for 35. I mean, we know what we're doing.
Got a little skin in the game.
I teach the class on appraisal.
Texas appraisal. Can you just kind of walk us through and give us a Cliff Notes version of how it all works?
State Farm v. Johnson outlined this lady named Ms. Johnson in Plano, Texas, sued State Farm for refusing to go to appraisal back in the day, like 15, 20 years ago. And the Texas Supreme Court outlined in great detail exactly how the appraisal process, other than the wording in the clause itself, it expounded upon that and really just brought clarity to it. They didn't extend anything, any more rights to the consumer. It just brought clarity to the rights that the consumer already had in regard to that. So both parties, either party, names an appraiser. The 2 appraisers name an umpire. The 2 appraisers go out and do a site visit. And if the 2 appraisers can come to an agreement as to the amount of the loss, scope, and price, then they write up an award, and it's binding on the 2 parties. 60%, we track these things. Used to be 90% of the time the 2 appraisers come to an agreement. Nowadays, it's about 60% of the time. The other 40% of the time, you have to activate the umpire. You only bring your differences to the umpire. And then the umpire will then make a decision. And then once any 2 out of the 3 on the appraisal panel agree, that sets the amount of the loss. And if the policy language states that it's binding on both parties or binding on one party, then it is.
Are there carriers in the state of Texas that control 2 of those 3 components? They control the umpire and their appraiser.
So in some next-gen policies, it states rather than the 2 appraisers naming an umpire, that the umpire, if there's remains a dispute between the 2 appraisers, then AAA, the American Arbitration Association, will then name the umpire. We've actually had very good luck with those AAA umpires being unbiased and competent.
That's good to hear.
I've heard otherwise stories, that they have been biased. But thus far, of course, we pray for all of our clients for a righteous outcome.
Yes.
So maybe we get better results than some other people because we do that.
Yeah.
It certainly doesn't hurt to do that.
For sure. I think Farmers controls the appraiser and the umpire.
Well, AAA.
Yeah.
But they pay the AAA. AAA is supposed to be unbiased. Of course, who's paying them? It creates a conflict of interest now, doesn't it?
Yes, just like MRPs.
Great. If AAA won't play ball, then fine. Then we'll reword the appraisal clause to say we hire someone else to name the umpire, someone who will play ball. I mean, again, thus far, we found that the umpires that have been assigned by AAA have been unbiased, competent, and fair, and we've gotten our clients good results.
If I'm a policyholder, I've got my 5-star contractor's estimate. I've got my adjuster's estimate. I don't agree. Appraisal really is the fairest way to resolve that dispute, right? Because you're supposed to have these objective point of views coming together, unbiased, objective.
Otherwise,
deciding.
the entire thing is a farce.
Yeah.
If the two parties, I mean, if the appraisers aren't independent, then really the two parties are still arguing between each other, and the appraisers are just puppets, aren't they?
Yes.
If they aren't independent, so they have to be independent. Independent means not dependent on the person that hired you. They're not telling you what to say, think, or do.
Right.
If they are telling you what to say or think or do, then you're not independent, and the entire thing is a farce.
Yeah. I've always thought appraisal was the fairest way to settle those differences of opinion. I've even been involved with or had claims go through the appraisal process where the appraisers got to the property and identified additional damaged
Happens all the time.
surfaces, units,
Happens all
items, and that to me speaks to the heart of the matter, which if the goal, in my opinion, should be that everyone is there to serve the homeowner, the policyholder. If that is truly the goal of all parties involved.
What's to serve both parties, so that it's a fair and equitable outcome, what I call a righteous outcome, what's right.
Right.
So it actually serves both parties, not just the consumer. It also serves the carrier as well, so that they're not having to pay for something that's illegitimate or unreasonable. So the goal is to determine everything, account for all the damage, and determine a reasonable method of repair based on construction best practices and a fair market price for that work, and then, an equitable amount of depreciation.
Yeah.
So it serves both parties, not just one party.
Sure. Yeah. Fair.
Correct.
Fair.
What's right?
Yeah.
What's right to both parties,
Right.
not just one.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if it's only fair to the consumer, then we're doing the exact same thing that the carrier's trying to do and create a biased outcome.
For sure.
And we don't want a biased outcome. We want a righteous outcome.